I'm honored to be joined by Joy Goberville. Joy is the founder of Enlighten 360 Degrees, which offers consulting services for individuals and teams in workforce solutions, talent acquisition, employee retention, team building, customer service, performance management, business etiquette and communication skills training, and leadership strategies. Joy also volunteers with SCORE as a certified mentor coach supporting small business owners since June 2024. That's how I met Joy, and it is a joy to have you here. Joy, thank you so much for coming on Offend Talk.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very excited to be a part of your community.
We're excited to have you. Joy, I was reading more and more about the idea for reinvention. Reinvention in the age of artificial intelligence, of changing business norms, of new generations joining the workforce. What does reinvention mean to you?
Thank you for asking that question. It's actually not a new concept. The best advice I ever received professionally was many, many years ago. I had never experienced a reduction in force or a layoff. And my first time, it was really a shock. And one of my close colleagues said to me, listen, this is your opportunity. Look at it from a place of abundance. You have chance now to reinvent yourself at your next place and be whomever you want to be. When she told me that, it was like I had permission. And I loved that sense of freedom and excitement. And ever since then, I've really embraced this idea that there's endless possibilities if one is open-minded to it. And many times, folks get emotionally attached to their work. And when we really talk about it, is it the job that you really, really have or the one that you think you have? So now, more than ever, as technology is evolving and opportunities are evolving, it's really important to have a mindset of, I can be anything I want to be. I just am going to maybe have to approach it differently and have continuous learning as a strong foundation.
I'm really interested in what you said about the job that you have versus the one that you think you have. I'm thinking about that. What do you mean?
Well, people tend to fall in love with their work. And when something gets bumpy and maybe they're held accountable in a different kind of way than what they wanted, it's a wake-up call. Like, oh, I guess I'm not really doing what I think that they want me to do. And people tend to cherry pick what they like about their work. I mean, that's human nature, right? Maybe you're going along and it's okay. Nobody notices until things get tough, like right now. If you can't clearly articulate the way that you're going to provide an immediate impact to your boss's return on investment of time and your boss's boss and the company overall, then I would say get a paper and pencil out and think about it and really think about what you're able to contribute that has long-lasting impact. Does that answer your question?
I think so, because there's the macro level reinvention, which might mean I'm changing what I put on LinkedIn entirely. I'm going to have a new banner. I'm going to have a new profile picture, describe myself in a new way. And then there's the micro level reinvention, which sounds to me like job crafting. It might be that I thought that I was doing something when I was hired. For example, I thought that I was teaching students at an after-school speech and debate academy, which some of the folks who are listening here do. But I realized later on that I wasn't best in front of the students. Rather, I was better when I was designing curriculum for others. So I worked with administration to craft it into a job that suited me better, as I did a more subtle reinvention. Does that sound like the general concept?
Yes, I encourage people to create what I call an unsolicited proposal all the time. Don't wait until you're in a situation where you're reacting. Get ahead of it the best you can. And what I mean by that is keep an eye and ear open to what solutions are needed and make sure that you're delivering on that. Even if you have to go back to school or you have to take online classes or webinars, do it. Because if you can offer up solutions before they're needed, that shows that you care, as opposed to you're just punching a clock and trying to make money and that's it. I think if you can clearly articulate, here are the problems that I know our clients come to us and need help. And here are the solutions I've been able to offer them. And then third, here's the happily ever after. So sometimes reinvention can happen in your current role. You don't have to completely start over. But what you need to do is keep your mind open to the fact that the world of work is changing. And we talk about this in social media all the time. Hashtag future of work. That's now, everybody. It's not like the future where we're waiting for George Jetson to be flying around in a car. That's maybe before your time, but
It's funny you bring up the Jetsons. That reference is not lost on me, but I'm genuinely curious if any of our listeners have never heard of the Jetsons. Genuinely curious about that with Rosie the Robot and Elroy and everyone. But the spirit of the Jetsons, you mentioned the future of work. What do you think the future of work is?
well, we're in it right now. Every single day, I receive probably 5 or 6 new emails full of lists of AI resources that can really elevate someone's productivity. So part of the future of work is being more efficient and really being able to do more with less. And there's so much that's free through OpenAI. And that's not new either, right? But I think this is the perfect opportunity for people to become really known as an expert in something. So find ways to be more efficient and more productive using the tools and resources available to you free. You just need to make the time. And oftentimes people say to me, oh, I don't have time. In fact, I was just on a call before you and I spoke. And he said, I just don't have time to keep up with my inbox. I don't have time to keep up with all this training I need to do. He said, listen, this is not trying to be sarcastic, but everybody has the time. It's how you prioritize the time. And I'm trying to think about it as like an investment. This is an investment no different than my financial future. This is really important to carve out time, if not a part of your day, at least a part of your week, to make sure that you are continually working on building out your resume with what is going to be needed.
For somebody who hears, I should get on top of AI so I can enhance my efficiency, but they're not sure what that should look like. The word AI is this scary miasma of something out there in front of them, and they're not sure how to wade through that fog. What have you done with AI? A very concrete, specific example that anybody could understand and get behind that they might not have started to do yet.
I take every webinar I can through SCORE. I'm really big on that AI for entrepreneurs, and I'm really big on anything that has to do with search engine optimization, Google for business, sales development. So that's part of my strength. So I'm already working on making it stronger. And then practice. You have to practice. Otherwise, it's like you use it or lose it, right? So specifically for AI, because I'm in the SCORE AI community of practice, it's called, let's just call it a committee. I'm very privileged to have this giant repository of prompt libraries that other SCORE mentors have created. I can just access them, but I keep my own too that I like. I continually learn something new about a new platform and a new use every day. I carve out a piece of my lunch. And so, with custom GPTs, for example, I helped one of the SCORE clients I support to create imagery. He had been waiting for weeks and weeks and weeks for his client to get graphics for the website he was helping them build. I said, well, let's just go on ChatGPT and go to Image Pro. And we built it in literally seconds. Another one of the SCORE clients I was working with was trying to find additional pitch competitions because she wanted to practice her pitch, and also instead of just waiting for a grant to come through nonprofit, she could apply for all these other avenues as well. So I did a quick search and came up with a list and talking points, and it was brilliant because it was right in her lane. And I had set my prompt up as if I were her and asked the questions and what I wanted it to be. And again, seconds later, it was such a huge time saver. That's my real life examples. Is that enough?
I think it is. You mentioned SCORE a few times. I know what it is. Some of our listeners know what it is. But for those who don't, what's SCORE?
Yeah, like I said, I wish I would have learned about it 8 years ago when I was coaching franchise owners. SCORE is in its 61st year. Can you believe it? And it's part of the Small Business Administration, not solely funded through SBA. It's also funded through local sponsorships and nationally through Chase Bank and Truist Bank. But SCORE is for any business in any stage of their business life, as long as they're less than 500 million in total annual revenue and sales and less than 500 full-time employees, which that covers a lot of ground. And there are so many incredible free resources, not just coaches, but free templates and ideas and articles and blogs, and then the webinars and real in-person events. We've got one coming up September 22nd for all of the chapters and all of the SCORE clients in Wisconsin on September 22nd. So I find it's a great opportunity to marry up a mentor who's had business experience with an entrepreneur. And anyone, they just go to the score.org website and you can use either the resources and or work with a coach. You don't have to do one and the other together. You can do them as you want. But most of the people I'm working with, they're pretty far along in their business plan. And it's sort of like building a house without a foundation, but they're picking out paint colors. So SCORE is really good at helping people stay focused and helping people come up with a plan that they can live with. Because ultimately, it's up to the entrepreneur to decide when do you want to work in the business and when do you want to work on the business. But it's an incredibly rewarding, I call it my passion project. And we do have a national campaign going on right now, #StandWithSCORE, because we're waiting to find out about fiscal year 26 funding or not. And we really hope that we receive that for fiscal year 26. In the meantime, now there's 374 chapters throughout the US. Likely anybody that's listening, there's a chapter in your backyard, and there's 10,000 volunteers, like the two of us. We're volunteers, we're unpaid, but we do it because we love helping people. So that's what SCORE is all about.
Let's bring all this together. We've talked about the future of work and reinvention and AI and how people can get involved through SCORE either as a mentor or mentee. Putting this all together, it seems like the thrust of the conversation is about trying to find what is our value and what are our values in this changing world of work. So if someone's struggling to define their unique value proposition, what are the sort of questions they should be asking?
I think that when an individual is sitting down, and maybe they heard it referred to as an elevator pitch before, but now it's the unique value proposition. Again, thinking about how am I unique, individually unique? What is it that I offer that nobody else can do? And maybe you ask a friend or somebody trusted in your family, hey, what is just so joy? What is just, that is about me? And then I can work around what I call the three basic questions. One, what are the problems that people come to me, just me, to solve? And then pay attention. What do they seem to have in common? Either their backgrounds, where they work, or what their problem is. 9 times out of 10, right now, especially, people are looking for validation that they're not alone and that it shouldn't have to be this hard. And it's not just them struggling. Nobody wants to feel like they're the only one. They want that comfort. 2, what solutions and recommendations did you offer? Listening to them and hearing where they were maybe off track or they just needed to have that reinforcement to one step they could get further to their goal as opposed to closer to their goal versus further away from their goal. And then third is, what was their happily ever after? Did they get promoted? Did they increase productivity? Were they incredibly more valuable in their company and their boss was very happy with them? Or Maybe it's work life and their spouse and their family is happier now because you helped them. That's huge. And I think that's highly underrated. The emotion that comes with feeling success is equally as important as what your paycheck says, in my one person's opinion. So, unique value proposition is how do you really provide value? What is the difference in the before and after snapshot from you working with somebody, and whether it's a team of people in your company or your boss specifically or a specific client? I think it's really important to be able to articulate it in concise bullets.
How have your answers to those three questions, the problems people come to you to solve, the solutions you recommended, and then what happened once they took your advice, how have your answers changed across the last 5 to 10 years?
Wow. It's more like the answer of how haven't they changed is an easier one to answer. I think because I'm paying more attention, I'm more intentional about what the before and after snapshot's going to be. So I'm really looking at it a recipe like I'm going to make for dinner, right? So in the past, I thought, hey, I just need to be all things to all people and solve as much as I can as fast as I can. Now I realize that people want to know that you're an expert in their field, in their life, in their world, that you can really articulate and demonstrate some examples and success stories. So I've gone from what I call the vanilla approach to life to being much more laser focused. It seems to me when you can give them one or two, as opposed to, we used to call it dumping the briefcase, like, here's all the things, you know? So now it's just more about, I'm going to give you one thing and then we'll circle back and you can tell me how that worked for you before we move on to the next thing. Well, that's pretty much it. I mean, as far as the biggest difference. And I would say, even in the last year since working with SCORE and working with the amount of clients, and I had worked with entrepreneurs in the past, but now I'm realizing the way the human brain is wired, and this is right up your alley, there's only a certain amount of tolerance for change. And there's a certain amount of natural built in resistance. So, in order to get people to cross the finish line, you have to be sensitive to that, right? So, I highly encourage people to reread the book, Who Moved My Cheese? It's an oldie but a goodie, because right now, everybody, the cheese is moving. And do you want to eat tonight or do you want to starve? So the three little mice, if you've got kids at home, you can read it to them and then snip and hem and haw. You can read it like in a kid voice, but that's really important to be able to stay on your path and not get lost as things move because you wanted to stick with what you knew. And
A
so
great recommendation, I think. Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson.
Yeah.
Also the person who co-wrote The 1 Minute Manager. Very, very sound advice. Joy, thank you so much for all the insight that you shared. Is there anything else that you'd like to cover?
No, thank you so much. And for everybody listening, be patient with yourself. Give yourself grace and permission to explore and play. Play in what you're learning. Because when you do that, it's going to take the pressure off you to feel like you have to be a certain something by a date. That's not what it's about. It's about finding your way and never, ever giving up. So thank you so much for allowing me to express my one person's opinion today.
Thank you, Joy. Your energy, your optimism, and your love of service, as well as your foresight, are infectious and inspiring. We really appreciate it.